Hi everybody, it's Susan with Pumpkin Hill Stampers. I have a card project to share with you today with my Stampin' Show and Tell. Today we're going to play with a celebration set, Epic Celebrations, and we're also going to be playing with the BRUSHO powder. So I'm starting to experiment with the BRUSHO powder. So today we're going to be doing our background and painting our guitar. This card did not end up where I originally had thought, but I like the way it turned out, so I'm sharing it with you today. Sometimes you just have to start with an image and go with the technique you want to practice and then let it lead you where it does. So that's what I did today. So let me go ahead and show you how I put this card together and enjoy our little visit as we go along. So again, this is a celebration set which you can get through the end of March whenever you purchase $50 of merchandise from Stampin' Up. And you can do that with me. My link to my store is down below. So it's a fun set. I think I'm going to really like it for all my nephews who have birthdays all year long. Many, many nephews. Okay, so we are going to be working with color today, as you can see. I tend to do 3 colors when I do color. We're using Pumpkin Pie, Crushed Curry, Bermuda Bay, and we're using the BRUSHO powders. Okay, we're also going to be doing some embossing with gold and a little sparkle on the end with our Wink of Stella. So let's go ahead and get started. My card kit looks like this. We are going to be working on watercolor paper to use that BRUSHO. So I have my card base, standard card base size. I'm tying in a vanilla envelope because we're using the watercolor paper, which is more vanilla than it is white. Then I've got a piece of Crushed Curry and the Bermuda Bay. Now I ended up with the Crushed Curry and the Bermuda Bay because we're going to be using the orange and the yellow BRUSHO to create our background, and these tied in nicely. And then I'm using the Bermuda Bay because it ties into the blue that I ended up painting the guitar with the blue BRUSHO. So the BRUSHO kind of dictated what colors I used for my cards. I hope that makes sense. And then we're just going to mat ours on black when we're all set and done. Okay, so let's go ahead and do some embossing so we can get started. So when we emboss, we have to use Versamark Ink. I'm going to stamp the guitar on my watercolor paper here. And I'm going to press it for an extra second or two just so that watercolor paper really takes the ink. And then I'm going to stamp, here's to an Epic Celebration, and I'm putting that down here. Okay, and then I'm going to dust that with my gold emboss. I already have some in my tray here. We sold these trays years and years ago. Now a lot of people just use Tupperware bins, or they use their paper and then slide it back into their bottle. So whatever works for you, but I still use these because they're pretty nifty. Alright, so there is my main image, and I'm just going to give that a tap to pull the extra gold dust off. Set that aside for a second. Then we're going to stamp on our Bermuda Bay, and we're going to use the headphones. And we're just going to stamp the background. So I'm just going to go around my paper, kind of turning my stamp as I go. I don't necessarily need them all in a line or in any particular direction. So just kind of free stamping the image around. Okay, so let me do a little more on the corner. Fill it all in, right? Okay, so there's my background. Now you could leave your background just as the Versamark on there, okay? But for this one, I dusted it with the gold and then I heat embossed it. So maybe I won't do that for this one because we're going to heat emboss anyways, but we'll see the difference between the 2 cards when we're done. So I'm not going to heat emboss that one just to show you the difference. Okay, so now I'm going to bring in my heat gun and I'm going to heat up my embossed image here on the watercolor paper. And as I heat it, you'll be able to see the emboss powder kind of change. So I'm going to hold this up. No, I'm not. I'm going to zoom the camera in. That's probably better for everybody. Okay, I'm going to zoom the camera in. Maybe you can see it as I change the powder over when it heats up. Alright, so let's watch the magic of heat emboss. Make sure you keep your fingers out of the way of that heat stream. And you see the neck of the guitar changing there, getting shiny? I just kind of follow my image along as I go. Sometimes I turn it into the light so I can see it a little better. I'll move on to my expression here. Okay, I think that is probably done. So I hope you were able to see how that changed as I went. Now I'm going to do the BRUSHO with the watercolor. So I'm not going to zoom out too much. I am going to bring in some scrap mat though, because this is pretty wet technique and I don't want my whole table wet here. So here's this. I'm going to snail that down to my table scrap mat here just so that I can work with it. Sometimes when you watercolor, your watercolor paper will curl up a little bit, so I want to make sure I can keep it flat so that when I dust it with the BRUSHO, I won't have any problems. Okay, so watercolor with your Aqua Painter. Okay, so I'm just going to add water to my watercolor paper. Because I've heat embossed my image, it's kind of got a raised edge, so that's going to help keep the water either in or out of the image. For the moment, I'm trying to keep it out. So I'm actually going to go ahead and squeeze my Aqua Painter and just trying to drop some water on there. And now I'm just going to brush it kind of around. I want that paper to get start to get saturated. But I don't necessarily want the whole thing to be wet because I want the powder to spread, but I don't really want it to be a solid background. Kind of want it to be willy-nilly. Alright, so my paper is wet and I've kind of painted in along the image, but not super wet in here along the image. So kind of want there to be a halo around my guitar. Now, the BRUSHO, I found sometimes I want it very wet on my paper so that it really spreads, and sometimes I don't. So this is just like one layer of water and it's not really pooling. So if I want it to pool, I need to drop some more water on there. Okay, and I'll do this corner first. And then I flip my BRUSHO over. Now I've got 3 holes in mine. I've tipped mine over and I just tap it. And see how that powder kind of explodes in the water wells that I have there? So I'm going to add more to this side. Just kind of let it go where it goes. And just tap that down. And see how it's running into the water down here because I preset? See, but this has already started to dry. So see how that powder just kind of sitting on top? Now you can take your Aqua Painter then and you can kind of move it around. You can help those color crystals dissolve, and the more solid they are, I'm going to blow that off a little bit because I don't want it in my guitar, the more solid they are, the darker the remnant of the color. So with this background that's okay, and down here where I was dry I just went right over and painted it, so that helped dissolve it. Now let's go ahead and add some orange. So now I know I've got a lot of water still here, so I'm just going to tap and see how the 2 colors just kind of mix. So I'm just going to tap it over. So every time you do this technique, depending on how wet or dry your paper is and how flat it is, you're going to get a different background. And you can either leave it kind of the way it is here, speckled, if that's what you're going for, or if you want to go in and touch it up. Even if you want to drop more water on it to kind of get it to swirl around, you can. Now I'm trying to go for a nice messy edge look here, so I don't want to get too busy with my Aqua Painter, but I am going to smooth out some of this color. I kind of want it a little more closer to my guitar, I think. But I'm trying not to smooth it out too much. Okay, now you have some choices. You can let it just dry, which would take a while, and then I'm just brushing that brusho out of my tip of my pen here. As you can see, there's a lot of brusho in there. So I'm just brushing it until it's clean. Almost done. Alright, so I'll come back to that in a minute. Now, since I'm doing this on video, I could heat it with my heat gun, I suppose, but to avoid there being too much noise, even though my phone is going off in the background, I'm just going to tap it with the tissue. Okay, it's going to absorb some of that extra liquid. Okay, so there's that. There's our background. Now, I think I want a little more orange splashed over my expression here. So I'm actually going to, oop, not that one, come back in with my Aqua Painter, and I'm going to drop just a spot of water, if I can, on Epic. And I'm going to go over it with the orange. See how it just adds kind of a little more burst of color in there? A little more. Meld that around. Okay, so clean that brush out again. Alright, so there is the orange and the yellow. Now, tap that dry. Now, what I've done is I've taken a block and I've put some of the blue brusho on it, and now I'm just going to come in with my Aqua Painter and I'm going to re-wet that blue powder, dried on my block as I was waiting. And I'm just going to, see how I just made that into kind of a fun paint? And I'm just going to come in here and paint my guitar. Now again, remember I embossed it? So I created a well for the image. So I should be able, as long as my Aqua Painter's not too wet, I should be able to come in here and just paint the image and keep it inside my edges. So I'm using the same watercolor crystals, only this time I've diluted it on my clear block and I've added water to create it into a paint. See? And then I can always go back and add more shadow if I want to, wherever I see fit. Remember, the drier my crystals, the darker they'll be. So, alright, so I think I'm pretty happy with that. Yeah, I'm just going to make the whole thing darker. Okay, so, again, clean my brush out. Good. Alright, so there is our main image for the card with our 3 colors of brusho, and we heat embossed. So now I just have to put the card together. So let me go ahead and pull this off of my scrap mat. Remember, I snailed it down to keep it flat. Clean this away. Let me show you how simple this card goes together. Okay, so I have my card base and my 2 coordinating color layers. So we're just going to snail these in. So I'm going to tip one color to the right, and I'm going to tip the other one to the left. Now remember, on my original card, I heat embossed this layer. This time I just Versamark stamped it, so we can see the difference. Okay, one right, one left. Now here's something tricky I do. So see, I have my Epic Sale-a-bration popped up there. Watch what I did. So I've got this, right? I'm going to come in with my circle punch. I hope. And I'm going to punch that out. This is the 1 1/4 inch circle punch. Okay, so I'm stealing that right off my image. Now, this is going to go on the black. I come in with my 1 3/8 inch punch and I'm going to steal a round of black. See, I didn't need any extra cardstock. I just used what I was already using. And watch how we're going to hide all that. So, I'm going to flip this one over and snail it. So, because I'm going to put this on the black as a mount. I find that sometimes with my watercolor paper I need a little extra adhesive. Fast fuse would be a good option for this one, but I think snail will be fine. Okay, so I stick that down, no trouble, and then we're going to put this layer on dimensionals. So we're going to pop that off the layer below. Ready with me so far? It's really a pretty simple card. And if you don't want to use BRUSHO or you don't have BRUSHO, you could just use your inks, your watercolor inks, or pencils, and get really the same effect. So now I've got my 2 circles and I'm just going to snail those together. And then, remember I punched it out there, I'm going to cover up that hole. So I just put a dimensional on the back. And voila. No one will ever know. Alright, so now there's one more step I decided to do after I got this point of my card. So it's a great card. It's lovely just the way it is. Don't need to do anything else to it. But then I thought, but it needs a little bling. It needs a little sparkle. So can you see the difference between the 2 cards? When I tipped this one that I had done before, I mean, yeah, it's got the shine of the emboss, right? And this one doesn't have the emboss on the blue, but it has the emboss. But this one also has glitter from the Wink of Stella brush. So I'm going to go right over this with my Wink of Stella. Now, what I learned is that the Wink of Stella will pick that BRUSHO up just like your Aqua Painter did. So don't be surprised if your Wink of Stella gets colored a bit, or wait until yours is really dry before you touch it. But I'm going to put some Wink of Stella. So first I just started with the guitar. I don't know if you can see it as I'm going on. Maybe I should zoom in to see this part. Oh, I'm pretty zoomed in. Okay. So I'm just adding this Wink of Stella to the top of where I brushoed. And you can put as many layers of this on as you like. It does pick up, see my tip is changing color? It does pick up that color, so you're going to want to wash it out before you use it again. So I'm just going to use my scrap mat. I'm just going to paint until it's clear, okay? Then I came in and I did the same thing with my background. Remember, my background is supposed to be kind of crazy? So I didn't want to do everything on my background. So I just kind of dropped a little bit, squeezed and dropped, just like you would water out of your Aqua Painter, a couple of dollops. And then I just moved it around kind of willy-nilly. Spread out some of that shine that you get from the Wink of Stella. I just kind of move it around my card. And then I added some to my little tag top here. Why not, right? Have some shimmer and shine there too. So, like I said, not where I started with this card when I was designing it, but I really think it's kind of fun. And it used a lot of different tools and products we have that allow you to kind of add layers and fun elements to your card projects. So I hope you enjoyed all the little things we did today on this project. One last thing, I always say that if you're going to stamp a card, you really should stamp your envelope. Let me pull you back out again. So I'm bringing my envelope and my stamp set. I think I'm going to use the headphones that I used in the background. And I'm going to grab my ink. This time I'm going to stamp in black. And I'm just going to add headphones to the corner of my envelope. Okay? So, if you're going to stamp a card, take the time and stamp the envelope. Make that a complete project. So, I hope you liked my card today. I hope you're enjoying Sale-a-bration this year. I love thumbs up and comments here on YouTube, or email me if you don't want them public. I'd love to hear from you if you're enjoying the projects that I'm sharing. There are links below with all the product that I used today for my online store. You can also subscribe to my show and tell newsletter, which comes out every Tuesday. And the projects that you see this week on the YouTube channel will be on my newsletter next week, with all the details in a document that you could print and save, or just reference if you wanted to case the card. So, thumbs up, subscribe here, subscribe to my newsletter, enjoy all the fun projects and programs that I run, and I hope you had a good time with me today. I had a good time sharing with you. Alright everybody, take care and have a good day. Bye-bye.